American airports are getting a glow up. Locksmiths are having a moment. Brief 140 on Honeywell and LenelS2 went nuts. And Brief 141, it's coming, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'm Lee Odess, and this is Secured. All right, so we have two stories this week. First, American Airlines, they deployed dormakaba's electronic boarding gates at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, DFW, making it the first major U.S. network carrier to install this technology at scale at a major hub. Starting in the new Terminal C, their pier expansion, nearly 20 dormakaba Argus Air XS gates are going to automate boarding pass validation, regulate passenger flow, and free up airline staff to focus on service rather than manual tasks. American says they plan to expand this to additional hubs and gateways, airports over time. The quote worth noting came from Jim Moses. He's the SVP of DFW Hub Operations, creating a modern, seamless journey for customers while keeping people at the center of the experience. I love that framing because it pushes the industry conversation away from automation or keeping bad people out, and it is indifferent than, replacement and total elevation, like whatever. Technology giving people more room to do what technology cannot do is what this is about. For anyone who's traveled through Frankfurt, you got Amsterdam Schiphol, London Heathrow, Singapore, or dozens of other international airports, this isn't new. It's just been a standard thing you've done for years. The U.S. has simply been behind, and it's nice to see American Airlines closing the gap. The next logical step is biometrics, and the infrastructure will already be there to make that transition shorter than most people think. This is proof that you can have both security and convenience at the same time, and proof that airports are willing to invest in intelligent gate infrastructure and technology when the experience case is clear, not just security. So second story, it was a bit of a slower news week, but the story that generated the most conversation for me on LinkedIn was the one I did about locksmiths. The most underappreciated group in physical security is also the group that is most underappreciating the biggest opportunity in physical security that they have. Electronic access control and electronic locks, they represent a massive and largely uncaptured opportunity for the locksmith community. We are excited to be working with the Associated Locksmiths of America, ALOA, the European Locksmiths Federation, also known as ELF. You've got the Master Locksmith Association of Australasia, and hopefully many, many more, while we build out this thing called the Global Locksmith Collective in partnership with the Access Control Collective. A lot's already in motion. We see this as an enormous opportunity because when all of this goes down, the biggest group that is still going to have to figure out how to handle locks is probably going to be the locksmith. So if you're a locksmith or working with them, reach out, let us know. Also, if you haven't been or plan to be because you haven't been there in a while, check out ALOA. It's the show that the American Locksmiths of America put on. It's coming up here mid-year. I'll be there keynoting. I'd love to pack the house. Let me know. All right, two things this week for the security breakdown and the brief. I'm going to start off with the security breakdown, TSB. So from TSB, Eric Joseph, the Global Director of Business Development and Strategy at Minutemen Security and Life Safety, and also a former Honeywell LenelS2 executive, he's now doing great things with that group. He wrote something this week that I think you should check it out. It's titled, Install Once, Risk Forever, Why Access Control Hardware Demands Lifecycle Management. So Eric, his argument is pretty direct. The access control industry got comfortable treating hardware like mechanical infrastructure. You installed it, it worked, and you moved on. That approach made sense once, it doesn't anymore. What changed is not that hardware itself, panels and readers they're remarkably reliable. What changed is the environment around them though. Access control is no longer at a standalone system sitting quietly in the background. It is connected, integrated, and front and center to business continuity. When you view it through that lens, the run it until it breaks mindset, it starts to fall apart. The question is not whether the hardware still powers on. The question is whether it is still doing its job in today's environment and whether it is a physical or cyber vulnerability. His framework, it's practical. Think in terms of 7-year life cycles for access control hardware, not because it's failing, but because it needs to be evolving. That's a huge mindset change. That shifts the internal conversation from asking whether we have to replace this, yet to asking how we are planning for what is next. Technology as a service and hardware evergreening models are gaining traction for exactly that reason. IT has operated this way for years. Access control needs to follow the same model. The closing line from Eric is the one worth keeping. Still working is not the same as still doing its job. Well done, Eric. If we believe IT convergence is happening, you have to believe this stuff is going to impact. It's great seeing your thought on this. Thank you for writing it. Now to Brief 140, which I published last Friday, and because of the timing, it didn't make it into last week's episode. So I want to give it its proper treatment here because the response was overwhelming. Brief 140 is about Honeywell and LenelS2. As projected, the response came in two forms, public and private. And the private responses were louder than the public ones. What I heard collectively across dozens of conversations was a single consistent message: hope. Not denial, not certainty, but hope. Yes, there were loud voices of despair and loud voices saying everything is fine, but underneath both of those was something more honest, which was hope that the leadership handles these brands properly and does the right things. And paired with that hope was a phrase I heard over and over: we will wait and see. My intent with that brief was exactly what I wrote, to open up a real conversation about two brands that are genuinely meaningful to the industry, LenelS2 and Honeywell, which have been extraordinarily quiet since the acquisition, while the public signals of departure and frustration have been very loud. The Rhombus partnership announcement is the perfect example of what I mean. You cannot bring news like that to a market when you have not said a single word about the largest unknown sitting in front of you, which is, where are you now and what is the plan? I would start there. I'd build some brand equity with your leadership team. Speak up, be a leader, and leverage the advantage you actually have, which is that people still give a damn about your brand and their products. I wouldn't shy away from it. Do not think it doesn't matter, because it does, and trust me, I've heard enough from customers to know it does. The ball's in their court, and I generally look forward to seeing what they do with it. And I know curiosity will prevail and leadership will show up. I think they will. Brief 141 is coming, and I want to talk about that as part of my view. I can't stop thinking about what is actually in this, and it's been something that's been gnawing at me for a while, so I wanted to give a preview, because I think it's one of the most important, and I don't think that our industry has fully registered what it means. You see everything in the news happening currently right now around AI and AI agentic and everything. But you don't hear a lot in our industry that is overly wowed around that. And here's the argument that I'm building. Configuration and access control is going to go away. Something's happening in enterprise software that is about to land on our doorstops with real force. Cursor is a code editor built on top of AI. A small team using it can now ship software that would have required, 50 people in engineering and an organization to bring it to market in 2 years. The configuration, the setup, the integration scaffolding, the testing loops that used to consume months of expensive senior engineering hours are being handled by AI agents working alongside developers in real time 24 hours a day. The result is that economic unit of software production has fundamentally changed, not incrementally, but fundamentally. The same force that is reorganizing software engineering is coming for access control configuration. Not just the interface, but the complexity itself. That is categorically different development from everything the smart home industry tried to do for 20 years. Think about what post-install configuration actually involves on a real deployment, say a 24-door law firm. Access groups for partners, associates, staff, IT, the managing partner, outside counsel, facility managers, all of them. You got door schedules for every opening, lockdown profiles, paper being sent here and there, elevator integration, HR system connection for credential revocation. Competent integrator with a good technician can do this work. It takes 2 to 4, let's say days, hours, whatever. You take the time of skilled labor on site plus follow-up remote sessions because there's always changes. The labor is billable. It is a meaningful line item to every project being budgeted. That labor is what AI is coming for. The scenario I just described is not complex by standards of a software problem. It is a structured decision tree with well-defined rules, role-based logic, and time-bound parameters. That is exactly what an AI agent is here to take care of and what they're very good at. The platform that ships AI native configuration first gets a meaningful time to value advantage. A system that can take a customer from installed to fully configured in a guided session is easier to sell, easier to expand, and harder to rip out. And don't even get me started about the better user experience. For integrators, the honest range of displacement for standard commercial deployments is somewhere between 60 to 90% of current post-install configuration hours. In simpler environments, that number is even higher. The complexity ceiling will move over time, not down. What grows for the integrators who adapt is the advisory relationship. When AI handles the programming, the integrator who has built a genuine advisory relationship with their customer has more time and more reason to do the higher value work. Managed services, system health monitoring, policy consulting, annual reviews, integration expansion, that is a reoccurring revenue model with better margins than project-based configuration labor. Someone sitting on a bucket, and it is available to anyone who decides to go after it. Physical installation is not going away. AI cannot hang a door, it cannot mount a reader, it can't pull cable or commission a controller. That hands-on work is durable and remains so. But the configuration moat is evaporating, and the companies whose competitive position depends on configuration complexity as a defensive mechanism should be planning for what comes after it. The two-person access control company is not a thought experiment. It's a business plan waiting for the right founders to pick it up. Brief 141 is coming. I'll get into this much deeper. Stay tuned. All right, in closing, and we're 1 week away from the security event in Birmingham, and I can't wait. I always love this show. The X Forum is back, including the new X Pod in the booth. It's right in the back. It's a podcast studio. You'll love it. I'm delivering a kickoff presentation on the leadership stage, thanks to Verkada. We're hosting Industry Night at the Botanist in downtown Birmingham with 125 people from the industry coming together for networking, food, and celebration of our great industry. It's in partnership with the European Locksmith Federation, ISC Events, and the Security Industry Association. It's sponsored by Verkada, HID, Swift Connect, and Honeywell, LenelS2. Thank you. It's going to be a great week, and I look forward to seeing many of you there. Please come by, check it out. If this episode was useful, send it to someone on your team. Until then, keep pushing, keep engaging, and I'll see you next week. I'm Lee Odess, and this is Secured.